Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
So our next speaker is Coach Carole. Give me a moment while I introduce you. So our next speaker is Coach Carole, author, teacher, podcaster, and essential genealogist. And she's going to be talking about how ancestral research and storytelling reveals who you are. Carole completed her Diploma of Family History with the University of Tasmania in 2019 and learned many strategies for researching her family tree and how to write up the stories of her own ancestors. Her research has stretched back through centuries, back to her Celtic roots. 20 years ago, she was content to explore her family tree and to build her knowledge of where and who she came from. As she became more aware of lives, experiences, and stories of her ancestors, she learned more about herself. So over to you, Coach Carole, how ancestral research and storytelling reveals who you are.
Thank you so much, Mancy. I'm so happy to be here today to share my very favourite subject of genealogy. Today, I plan to share my ideas with you on the importance of family history in shaping who you are, how your ancestors gave you your identity, or as we heard this morning, your unique fingerprint. We are all part of a global community. That's why we're here today. But individually, our roots stretch back in time to those who came before us, our ancestors. Now, if we go back far enough, we would probably all be related to King Charlemagne from the 10th century. According to my research, that is so. Our bloodlines are integral to our identity, and we carry the genes of our ancestors, and we often play out our lives with similar experiences and traits like them. A genealogy journey is, as it says here on this slide, it's a personal one. To find your ancestors, your roots, to step back in time and to learn a little more about you. The family tree is a universal symbol of our connections to our tribe, our clan. It's used to describe the human bloodlines of millennia. It's the study of family trees. Genealogy is the study of family trees, of family history and how we trace our lineage. Now, did you know that the longest family tree in the world is that of the Chinese philosopher and educator Confucius? That tree spans 80 generations and includes more than 2 million members. Now, maybe you're a fan of the Who Do You Think You Are program from the BBC, or the Finding Your Roots with Henry Louis Gates Jr., then you probably enjoy, as I do, watching the whole genealogy journey unfold before your very eyes. Imagine what it feels like to be related to royalty or convicts. In the Celtic culture, which is mine, that's where McCulloch comes from, it's Scottish. But my ancestry is in the Welsh. But to all of us in Celtic culture, it's very important for us to know from whom we descend. And for you too, your ancestors are built into your DNA and even into your name. For example, in my McCulloch clan, the surname of the maternal grandmother is always given to the first son. Now, many cultures believe in honouring their elders, and they do so by naming their children according to their ancestors. So in a famous piece of writing by Angus Baxter, In Search of Your British and Irish Roots, he describes that pattern in the 1700s in England, where the first son was named after the father's father. The second son was named after the mother's father, and the first daughter after the mother's mother, and the second daughter after the father's mother, and so on. Some of the most fascinating names come from early New England, where parents sometimes named their children after virtues they hoped they would have: patience, charity, prudence, thankful. Now, we often know who our parents and grandparents are. I'm sure you do, but not much about them. So the study of family history will reveal your traits, their skills, their lives to you, and give you a glimpse of what their lives were like. So long before computers and the internet, our lineage has been described and recorded on scrolls like these, or in books, or in stone. Just look at Egyptian history. But today we are blessed with the power of the internet. We can now dig up our ancestors' lives and facts from the millions of digitized records that have been recorded in the National Archives. Did you know that the longest or largest handwritten family tree comes from the Ganges River, the historical epicenter of India? Hundreds of thousands of people visit that river each year, and there's a dedicated group of pandits or priests working quietly behind the scenes, and they record everyone who visits. And these documents are historical and genealogical archives, recording births and deaths in each visiting family. They stretch back 20 generations. If you want to learn more, go and find out about the largest family tree on YouTube. Now, researching data and recording facts of your family is only one half of the genealogy journey. We all want to know our tribe. We may have family photograph albums, and these help us to know our ancestors. This helps to determine where we get our features from. For me, you might not know it, but I used to have red hair, and that was from my great-grandmother on the maternal side. But other photos might prompt questions like, what did Grandpa do in the war? So think of your name and ask where you've come from. Patronymics is the study of naming patterns. For example, the Norwegian practice of naming the first son after the first name of the father. If Erik Larsen had a son, he will be John Eriksson, and his son will be Sven Johnson. So to preserve your family history for generations to come, it's our task to share the stories of our ancestors. And I've been doing this for many, many years. We want to be able to tell people where they came from, what they did, what were they like, what happened to them, and what should we remember them for. We need to record that in our files. And you can look for help on that in many different places on the web, such as the Wikipedia for Family Tree or into the Family Tree magazines. We could also create a story for our ancestors, and this is my favourite thing to do. You could do that over a period of time. And some of my genealogy friends have been busy doing 52 ancestors in 52 weeks. If you consistently wrote a story each week for your ancestors, by the end of the year, you would have a book. And indeed, many of my friends have done that. One of my favourite readings is from Sally Morgan, who is Australia's best-known Aboriginal artist and writer, and she talks about her family history in the book called My Place. If you'd like some help with that, now I've written a little ebook, and you might be interested in Storifying Your Ancestors, which is a guide to preserving your family history. And you can do it in a number of different ways, with cards, stories, blog posts, videos. And in that book, I've given you examples from my family history collection. Drafting your story can be done along a theme, if you like. For example, in this one, I might be talking about my tailoring dynasty family and stretching back from my great-grandfather to my grandfather. And you could record that on different places, like a Trello board. You may have heard of Trello.com, which allows you to create these little snippets or cards with information about your ancestors. So that's another way to do it. Or very simply, record it into a Word template where you fill in the data, add a timeline, describe some events, and begin your story by describing some scenes, like the most significant historical event in my life was, and go on from there. Or you could do it even more simply in just a PowerPoint slide, like this one. I'm using a PowerPoint template that shares a tree. So you can add a name, place an image, and even record a little story of your ancestor as a voiceover. There are so many different ways to do it. Or maybe you'd like to collect all your stories together and put them into a Google Drive folder. Very simple to do. Even more options for you. How about you come and talk to me in a podcast? Maybe you've got a story. Maybe you've gone through your genealogy journey and you'd like to talk about that with me. Come and find me on my link tree. So that's linktr.ee/Coach Carole. Has got all my links there for you. Or maybe you'd like to share your story with a group. I run these sessions each month on the second Saturday in the month. And of course, that's in Australian Eastern Daylight Time now. So that's UTC +11 if you're coming along. Our next one is on November 13. And you can find all that in my Facebook group. So I really want to impress upon everyone that it's our duty, our task, to store your ancestral stories as part of handing down your legacy in the next generation. You may even find out more about you. Now, if you're keen to do more and to learn the steps, come along to my workshop later this afternoon in this Global Transformation Festival. So I really encourage each one of you, if you've not yet started, get started on your genealogy journey today. It will transform you. Back to you, Mansi.
Thank you so much. This was fascinating, Coach Carole. And really, you took us back in history, but this time it is a personal history, because I know in textbooks, when we learn history, you're always trying to find yourself and where you fit in. And this is your personal history. And also tell us ways of how we could catalog our own history and become a part of it. Like we could actually, because it's a living history, it's not dead. Your family tree lives in you. So I'll go deeper in conversation with you during the panel, but thank you so much, Coach Carole.